Well, here we are again on the eve of Wimbledon, right here at Coffee Break Tennis Studios. Thank you for joining us today. We've got a very special match tomorrow, and we're going to look at a lot of clips from the press conferences, what Nick and Novak are saying going into it, and we're going to look at some clips from when they played because, as you know, Djokovic has never beat Nick Kyrgios, or maybe you don't know, you should know, and Kyrgios has never lost to Novak Djokovic. He's got a 2-0 head-to-head record, one win in Mexico and one win in the States, Indian Wells and California. Anyways, both hard court matches, both in 2017, 5 years ago. We're going to go through some of those clips. But before I do that really quick, I just want to say, maybe the fans at Wimbledon aren't sure who to root for. They're not the most likable. But Roger and Rafa, they're going to be watching. We're going to be watching. I think fans around the world are really excited for this match. This might be one of the biggest, most watched matches of all time. And I think, one, because, the matchup, pretty interesting matchup. Nick Kyrgios, the most talented of the next generation, who can't come through and beat these guys against one of the big three, who we thought last year was the greatest of all time. And this year, maybe Rafa made that a little more confusing for us. I'm not sure who the greatest is right now, but Djokovic trying to get right back into that conversation with a win here at Wimbledon. So not only are we excited for this match, but also Djokovic, we're going to play a lot of clips from his presser, but one thing he said that really stuck out to me is that, he said Nick is a very versatile player. He's a very complete player, which is a part of why maybe this is a tough matchup for him. I don't think it's the best matchup for Djokovic, even though I'm gonna stick with my prediction of Djokovic winning this match. But Kyrgios definitely has a chance of going in. I think we're gonna be treated tomorrow to one of the epic classic Wimbledon men's finals. But Djokovic also said that Kyrgios really deserves to be here. It's not really so much of a surprise to him. And he's happy. He said he's happy for Nick to be there because it's good for the sport, and he thinks the guy's getting what he truly deserves. But let's look at one thing in these first few clips. Play it. Djokovic serves. Now we're going to settle into a rally. Kyrgios is one of the few players on tour who can coexist just going baseline to baseline with Djokovic. We're going to favor Djokovic overall on the baseline, but Kyrgios has got an edge on the serve for sure. And Djokovic's edge in the baseline rallies, it's not as big as you would expect. Kyrgios, look at this long rally. Even going backhand to backhand, Djokovic wins it there. Let's look at another one. Quickly out of that backhand to backhand rally there, Kyrgios flipped it going up the line. Now it's a forehand rally. And he's about to throw in one of his tricky little jump in the air like he's going to pound the forehand and drop shot. Another clip, serve up the middle to the backhand, and we're going to settle into another backhand to backhand rally. And again, most guys on tour going back into backhand with Djokovic, you're going to be pretty uneasy. And Kyrgios, he can hang. So that right away is a big factor in this matchup. Let's see how this one finishes. All right, we're going to go. Oh, no. Djokovic wouldn't let it quite go forehand to forehand. Back to backhand to backhand. How's Kyrgios going to get out of this thing? I feel like all right, doesn't get there. Anyway, so you see my point. One time he bails out with a drop shot. Oh, that one hit the net, but still. Bails out with a drop shot. Doesn't work there, but the point is he can hang in these long rallies. And then, of course, moving on, there is the serve. Now, this is a funny clip because they're like, Djokovic with the lead, in charge. And then this happens. Didn't last long, says the commentator on that one. So we're going to look at how, and Djokovic said something about this. I don't know if I have this clip today, but Djokovic said something in the press conference about, Kyrgios' serve is so good. I think I do have the clip, actually. He was asked who is the best server. And he's talking about, Isner and Opelka and Karlovic. We'll put these tall guys up first. But after that, one name came to mind, and of course it was Nick Kyrgios. So let's look at how Djokovic was saying how Kyrgios' serve can set him up to dictate from the baseline. And, the guy's always on the baseline because of his serve, Djokovic was saying later on. I don't have that one. So let's see how Djokovic does that. Kyrgios does that with the serve here. You see all that space created there to make that drop shot? When you get that big serve, you got to back off and be ready for the big forehand. And Kyrgios is always going to have an opportunity to hit that fake drop shot there. Or not fake forehand into a drop shot. Here's another example.
Big second serve.
That's why I put that one in there, because he does it. It's not just the first serve with Kyrgios. We see Federer comes to mind, someone who can do it. Of course, the big guys like Karlovic, Isner, and Opelka. But Kyrgios, always a threat when he's serving, whether it's first or second. Let's take another look. Second serve into the body. Good return. Djokovic, greatest returner of all time. And once again, we're going to settle into a long rally where Kyrgios can coexist with this guy and find ways to win still. And these matches, you do notice Djokovic coming in. Let's go. You do notice Djokovic coming in. Ace to finish it. You hear that?
Djokovic smashes the racket.
Obliterates the racket. Anyways, we see examples of Djokovic coming in, and Kyrgios so crafty. He's able to come up ways to, get the pass, get the ball down low. I mean, Kyrgios is a guy, I've said it so many times before, should be number one in the world, could have been number one in the world at any point in the last years. Most talented from his entire generation, but for some reason, this is the underachieving generation. Well, for some reason called the Big Three. But Kyrgios is someone who could have broke out of it. Is it time? Do comment below. Is it time that he's finally going to do it? Do you think Kyrgios can do this tomorrow and win it? Jake Huang, this is what he thinks. Put the comment on the screen. For some reason, I'm seeing Nadal's withdrawal and Nick getting a walkover into the final of Wimbledon an omen that the tennis gods do want Nick Kyrgios to win this. Like somehow it all makes sense. The Russian ban, no ATP points, all the top grass players getting COVID, knocked out in round one, and then Nick Kyrgios winning Wimbledon, and he did it by beating Djokovic in the final. It's just perfect. But quick reality check here. Some people see, the fate, the writing in between the lines, right? We're seeing all the secrets there. Some people see fate a little differently. Kieran says, no, mate. If you believe in that stuff, what nationality is Nick? Australian. The universe put an Australian in the final for somebody to exact some revenge. Of course, we all know what that means. Deep thinking here, real deep thinking. I mean, Djokovic, revenge. There was a question. It was kind of a dumb one in the press conference of Djokovic. They're like, Novak Djokovic, are you at war with Australia? Because he got kicked out of Australia, and now he's got an Australian in his way to get back on track and win majors again. I see where the guy was coming from, but could have worded it a little better. I like Kieran's better, though. Maybe the universe is not aligned for Nick to win. It is aligned for Novak to stick it to Australia just a little by beating a guy that a lot of Australians don't like. I think most probably do like him. So maybe we could have picked a different representative of Australia if you really want to stick it to Australia in this way. But let's do one more. This earth-shattering comment right here, really looking into the stars, into the universe. Ben says, Beyond Meat is low-key good, though. Stop the music! It's not Freitag, but the beauty of German language. Every day ends with Tag, except for Wednesday. So we can do Bierhall Freitag on Samstag too. Hallo und willkommen zum Bierhall Samstag. You might be wondering, why is Matt reading comments in the beginning of a show? Because it's Bierhall Samstag. Now, if you're new to the show, you don't know what the heck that means. It's German, first off. It's about beer, and it's about a beer hall where everyone is welcome, and we just do comments galore. So many comments. All comments are okay here, even if it's offensive, I might read it. If it offends me, doesn't matter. If it's a good question, if it's a bad question, if it's something I'm not particularly interested in, we will read them here because this is the People's Day. Let's do one more. SLC 2466. Yup. The Beyond Meat Carl's Jr. cheeseburger. Matt doesn't know what he's missing. I want to say, you know what? I'm going to try this, but I don't know for sure if I really am going to try a Beyond Meat cheeseburger. Michael Garzel. At this point, Garza, not Garzel. At this point, as someone who is pulling maniacally for Rafa, I want Kyrgios to win with all of my soul. One more. Normally, I wouldn't read this one because he's criticizing me on the show and my job of being a host of the tennis talk show, Coffee Break Tennis. Tom, AFCW, says, the amount of disrespect for Cam Norrie is a joke. With the crowd, I think he's at least taken one set off Novak, potentially two. Wouldn't be surprised if Norrie wins. Let's see what happens. Well, we do have, that's just a little taste of what we're in for today on Bierhall Freitag. I have more clips to get through first and an article. Then we'll get into a bunch more comments for Bierhall Freitag. Oh, Samstag, excuse me. Today's Saturday, Bierhall Samstag. Anyways, first off, we got a clip of Djokovic talking about how he beat Cam Norrie, going back to that comment. More belching on Bierhall days, so be ready for that. But anyways, going back to that comment, we do have Novak kind of explaining how he shouldn't have lost the set, but being very polite, respectful to Cam Norrie. Shouldn't have dropped the set. You know, Norrie was playing pretty well, and Djokovic, feeling some nerves, chance to get back in a final, not serving very well. I'll show you the graphic on that. But first, something that stood out to me more. Let's play this clip, baby. Let me get it queued up. We're going to play this clip, which talks about how these courts are super slow. Turn up my volume a little. Oh, yeah. We're ready. Play it. Big looping forehand to the baseline almost. Oh, yeah. Grip and rip. It's wide.
So good now, particularly on this slower version of grass, which doesn't accentuate the serve and the power game as much as it used to. Even when he's struggling with his offensive game, he just goes into sort of a more defensive mode, and it's working. He's not playing anywhere near his highest level for him, but he's basically stopped missing.
That indeed he did. Stopped missing and not playing his highest level. But what caught my attention there was this slower version of grass. Is that what Patrick McEnroe, is that how he said it? The grass is playing slower than ever. This is the first, we've made it to the final without talking about the conditions and how slow it's playing. You know, after years of doing this show and covering Wimbledon and saying how regrettable it is that the grass is super slow, you know, it's almost like green clay, we've said in the past. Well, it's even slower this year. But put this up on the screen. You know, you might think that, and before I put it up on the screen, you might think that hurts Kyrgios. Maybe it would. It nullifies serve a little. But I think it hurts Djokovic because, one, they were talking about before that how the serve is usually the shot at Wimbledon. And this year, it feels more like the drop shot is the shot. The conditions are so slow. We saw, you know, Nadal, when he couldn't serve through Taylor Fritz, I mean, he couldn't even hit his normal speeds, hitting tons of drop shots to get through that Fritz match. But who is the king of the drop shot? Of course, that's Nick Kyrgios. We saw Nick Kyrgios doing better with the drop shot in those two matches against Djokovic. On top of that, put this on the screen. Take a look at the weather. This is Fahrenheit, so I'm sorry for all you Celsius people out there. But going back to the 27th of June, Bierhall Freitag, so we got to speak a lot of Deutscher a lot today. Anyways, the 27th of June, it was 67 is the high and rainy. Slow conditions, you know, rainies, humidity, plus, cold. 72, 67, a lot of people would consider a little on the colder side. You know, most people like 70, 72. That's like perfect in Fahrenheit. Anyways, every day we're looking at low 70s, high 60s, get to 74 in week 2, and then finally, semifinal Friday, we had a warmer, sunny day. And Sunday, we're going to get the highest high we've had yet of 84. So that will favor Kyrgios a little bit there. But hear me out on the conditions before we move on. I just think the slower conditions means Kyrgios is still going to hit aces. It's going to be harder for Djokovic to ace Kyrgios in the slower conditions, the slower court in general. Forget about the condition, like the weather on the day of. Just the fact that the courts have been playing super slow. They do get firmer, less slick, so the ball doesn't skid as much, but it plays a little faster as we get deeper into it. But still, we got this slow court, the slow grass, slowest it's ever been maybe, and Kyrgios is still going to be able to hit aces through it. That's my main point there. Kyrgios is easily going to be able to come up with aces. He's going to get a lot of free points, even against the best returner in the world. So let's take a look at this next clip.
Nick was in earlier saying that you've kind of developed a
then there's this.
A bromance over the past few months. Just wanted to hear your kind of side of things, how your relationship's evolved over the past few years to now.
I don't know if I can call it a bromance yet, but we definitely have a better relationship than what it was probably prior to January this year. But when it was really tough for me. In Australia, he was one of the very few players that came out publicly and supported me and stood by me. So that's something I truly appreciate, and so I respect him for that a lot.
Real serious there. You see it in Djokovic's eyes, funny, laughing. Kyrgios had said earlier in his press conference that they have a bromance. He was saying that after Australia, they started messaging each other back and forth, even to the point where about a week ago, early in the second week, Djokovic said, hey, he sent a private message to Nick saying, maybe I'll see you on Sunday. So, yeah, they're starting to be a little bit buddy-buddy. So I just want to throw that out there. A lot of people would have said, like, oh, can't wait to see Nick and Rafa play again because they, hate each other. Which, I don't know. Do they really hate each other? They respect each other's games. They definitely aren't best friends. We could definitely say that, right? And then Djokovic, we used to say, Djokovic hates Kyrgios even more, and we want to see them play again. For years, we've been, it's been 5 years since they played. We've been wanting to see Djokovic get his revenge. If you don't know, Kyrgios did a podcast years ago, not too long, 2018, and he basically, or maybe 2019, around there, and Kyrgios said a bunch of, mean stuff about Djokovic, basically saying that Djokovic wants to be loved like Roger and Rafa, but he never will. No one's ever going to love him the way, and it's just pathetic. Stuff like that. Not very nice. Definitely Djokovic heard about it, was asked about it by media, didn't like it, and then I think at one point Djokovic responded in the media saying, you know what, I'm not going to specifically comment on what Kyrgios is saying about me, but I will say I respect his game, but I don't respect him as a person so much. And that's what Djokovic said. So after that, they hate each other. Djokovic gets thrown out of the country in Australia. And as you heard Novak say there, many players were scared to say anything. And Nick Kyrgios, never scared to say what's on his mind. He was one of the first people to come out and say this is wrong, what they're doing to Novak Djokovic. So that really changed things. The other thing is just, crap talking. Whereas this was when it really came down to it and things really mattered, who stood up for me. Djokovic's probably going to remember that for the rest of his life. Maybe Kyrgios will change things and do something that makes him so mad during the final tomorrow that it'll erase all the goodwill created by standing up for him during that. All right. I don't have any negative Nadal comments in here, I don't think, but I've seen enough of them. Maybe I have a couple in Bierhall Samstag commentary. But I feel for the Rafa fans out there because some people are saying things along the lines of Rafa's selfish, he should have retired, he should have let Taylor Fritz have his chance at a semifinal. Screw Taylor Fritz, man. God, and it's the worst argument ever. Lucky loser in qualies, we don't want to have first round buys in the tournament. But in a semifinal, you're Kyrgios, you made it. Nadal beat Fritz. Fritz lost. He is out. When you lose at a major in the main draw, you're out for good. Only in qualifying do we have lucky losers. To let a lucky loser and Taylor Fritz get to come back, some people really wanted that. That's ridiculous. Kyrgios said, I'm disappointed that when I first heard, obviously I'm happy to be in the final, but when I first heard, I was kind of disappointed that I wasn't going to play Nadal because I've been in this mindset ever since I won. I knew I was probably going to face Nadal before he even knew if Nadal was going to beat Fritz or not. I knew I was probably going to face Nadal, and I've been thinking about, how I was going to feel walking out on the court when they're cheering for Nadal and how I'm going to play him strategically for his game. So, just thinking about the match and then finding out he's not going to play it, that was kind of a letdown for Nick. Well, what if you're thinking about the match and you're planning and you're doing everything, and then kind of last minute, you're playing Taylor Fritz now? That's totally unfair. It's totally unfair because you're giving this guy a second chance. You get to lose twice and win Wimbledon still. Let's imagine that he beat Kyrgios and Djokovic. Taylor Fritz never would happen. Maybe he'll win. Maybe Taylor Fritz will win Wimbledon one day. He's got a great skill set for Wimbledon, but he ain't beating Djokovic. And I don't think he's beating Kyrgios either. And I don't think he's beating Nadal, especially when he can't beat injured Nadal, severely injured Nadal. Anyways, ESPN did a little piece on Rafa's injury. For the people out there, one, I'll just say this. Rafa thought his doctors could maybe take a look at what was bothering him. Because remember, this is a thing that just popped up when he was in the middle of that match against Fritz. He probably thought he had a chance to get healthy enough to compete. He was going to do everything he could. I mean, he won the first two majors of the year. You know how rare that is? Rafa had never done it before, and he's the greatest of all time as it stands right now, and he did something for the first time. So he could have won the first three and gone to the U.S. Open with a chance to get what hasn't happened since 1969. Anyways, on top of that, look how serious the injury was. Rafa didn't know until after when the doctors take a look at it. Take a listen to ESPN reporting on what exactly was wrong with him.
It's about a quarter-inch tear on his right side, and to react to that,
Quarter inch. It's like a hole in your stomach.
So it's a very painful thing. A lot of nerve endings in your stomach. He went out in the practice court yesterday, hit some three-quarter-inch serves, and he packed the back head for 20 minutes. It was pretty evident.
I apologize to the Raw fans. I know this is hard to watch.
Today for him, when you're fatigued, as he was after Roland Garros, and dehydrated, he practiced in hot conditions, and you try to put extra stuff on your serve and practice serves more as he does, you're more susceptible to that injury. PT guru Marty Jaramillo
That's how rare this is. Look at that.
Morning, and he felt that it could get
last time it
2 or 3
happened
times worse,
was
Patrick.
30 years ago.
Another match or two. He knew he had no chance to beat Kyrgios and Djokovic serving that way.
Absolutely. No chance. Because Taylor Fritz, he's from that mentally weak. You know, some people might not know. They always said for years, the haters of Fed, some of them Joker and Nadal fans, probably regretting it a little bit now. They always said that Federer came from a weak era, and that was the only reason why Federer won as much as he did, because there was no one good enough to challenge him. And I'm always asking myself, I'm watching some of these guys now, these next-gen guys, I'm like, would they beat Andy Roddick? Would Taylor Fritz? Comment below. If Andy Roddick was there instead of Nadal, let's go back in time a little. Let's say it's like a 29-year-old Roddick, a little before he retired. Would Taylor Fritz have beat Andy Roddick there? Because Andy Roddick supposedly was from the weak generation. The weak era is what they used to say. They didn't call it gen. They called it era. And that's the only reason why Federer was so good. Because Marat Safin. Is Taylor Fritz going to beat Marat Safin? Who else is from the weak era? Leighton Hewitt, he's part of that weak era. You know, he was number one in the world, and then he could never beat Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic after that. Anyways, I'm sure there's other people I'm not thinking of from the weak era, but maybe this is the weak era. Who knows? I mean, it shouldn't be. Tennis is technology's gotten better, the training's getting better, everything seems to get better. Moving on, though, quarter-inch tear. They also said, you heard Chris Fowler saying that there, if he would have played the match, it would have doubled. If he would have played another long, brutal match. Let's go to Nick talking about it initially, about what it would have been like for Rafa to do this. Just for those people out there that are hating on Rafa, saying he should have let Taylor Fritz get a free pass.
You know, it wouldn't have been easy for him to do that. You know, I'm sure that a lot of his team members and himself, there was a big part of him that wanted to play, for sure. You know, he hasn't barely lost a match this year, and he wanted to probably go for all 4. So it wouldn't have been easy. So, you know, I thought I'd just put a nice post up to just kind of say, like, look, we've had a lot of run-ins, we've had a lot of battles, and I'm sure at the end of the day, everyone did want to see us go to war out there. So, you know, I hope you just get better.
Me too, Nick. We all wanted to see you go out to war. Anyways, that's enough of Rafa. He is out. Novak and Nick are in. Let's listen to Novak talk about how he lost the set to Cam Norrie and righted the ship to beat him.
You know, nerves were kicking in for both of us. He handled them better and was a better player for a set and a half. One poor game from his side in 4-3 second set, and the match turned around. I think the momentum shifted, and I started feeling better, serving better, and just, you know, getting him to move around the court, making him work. And so solid 3 sets after that. You know, I know I always expect for myself that I can play better than I did, but I have to be pleased with this win.
Reluctantly pleased. Take a look. This is it for me, man. This is the graph here. Novak, 55% serves in the first set. Take a look at sets 2 and 3, 71, and look at the spots. I mean, this is what made Federer so good here and everywhere. And this is one of the things that's made Djokovic, you know, we know Djokovic's skill sets. This is what's made Djokovic so unbeatable. He has cleaned up his serve so much in the last 5 years, and he hits the spots so much better. But this is what I was telling my brother about this final coming up, Kyrgios and Djokovic the other day, saying the problem for Djokovic is, and we saw it with Cam Norrie in the beginning, Djokovic serves a lot like Federer now with the spot serving, but he doesn't do it as frequently. You know, Federer is going to hold up through a Wimbledon final and be hitting these spots pretty much the whole time, start to finish. And Djokovic did it for, you know, sets 2 and 3 in this graph, and set 4 too, I guess. But set number one, Djokovic not hitting those spots, getting less first serves in, and then look how that translates over to percentage of returns. This is a big number. If Kyrgios can keep Djokovic's percentage of returns put back in play off of the Kyrgios serve, if he can keep that as low as it's been for other guys, and Djokovic can't use his greatest of all-time returning skills to elevate that number, it's going to be really hard on Novak to win this match. I still think Novak in 5 is probably what I'm going to go, but I got to tell you, like, I have a really hard time predicting this match. Nick Kyrgios is so unpredictable. He's got everything you need to be the greatest, to be number one in the world. Maybe not greatest of all time, but be the greatest for right now, the greatest of his generation. Kyrgios should be already, cementing that role. He's got 0 majors thus far, so he's got some making up to do. Anyways, but yeah, look at the numbers. Set 1, Djokovic is only getting 50% of first serve returns back. So Cam Norrie was serving pretty well in that first set. Cam Norrie just started off pretty hot. Norrie getting 89%. If Kyrgios gets anything close to 89% of Djokovic's serves back in play, Djokovic is going to lose for sure. But that was kind of a fluke. Sets 2 and 3, 4, I'm sure is similar. Only 58%. Yeah, this is at the very end of the third set when these graphs came out. You see Djokovic up 5-1 there. Djokovic's numbers shoot up to 77, and Norrie drops down to 58. That would be plenty for Novak to win. And you just see how easy life gets when you hit those spots on the rally. We just saw the clips of Kyrgios earlier. Anyways, moving on from there, Djokovic's serve wasn't working in the first set. That was probably the biggest reason why he lost, and Cam Norrie was just pretty hot overall. Our old buddy from the New York Times. How many New York Times tennis writers do they have now? Is tennis getting more popular? Thumbs up for that. Matt Fudgerman. We get to hear the guy's voice. He's there at Wimbledon asking Djokovic a pretty good question. We liked his article the other day. What was his article on? I don't even remember. But it was a good article on tennis. We did it a few shows ago. And now we got Matt Fudgerman. We're going to hear his voice. Take a listen.
Matt Fudgerman from the New York Times. Given the trajectory of Nick's career, are you surprised that he's going to be on the other side of the net from you in
this is a fair question.
Wimbledon final? And do you prepare in a different way to play someone who...
Joker's response here is great. I already talked a little bit about it in the intro, but listen.
I mean, in a way, it's a surprise because, his ranking and he has never reached the Grand Slam final, so maybe not too many people were giving him big chances to reach the finals, but I think between us players, we always know how dangerous he is on grass, particularly because of his game.
For real.
Just because of his attitude on the court, being so confident and just going for it, and being a very complete player. And it seems
be
like
wasted by the end of the
he's
show.
at a better state than what he was, where he was some years ago. So as I said, of course, as time passes by, you're maturing, you're understanding yourself, what you need to do in order to get yourself to the best possible optimal state of mind.
You gotta love how respectful
and soul in order
Djokovic is to Kyrgios in this press
These
conference.
are the occasions where he thrives, big stage. So in a way, it's also not a surprise for me that he's there. And I'm honestly, as a tennis fan, I'm glad that he's in the finals because he's got so much talent, and everyone was praising him when he came on the tour, expecting great things from him. And of course, then we know what was happening throughout many years with him, and mentally, emotionally, and on and off the court, a lot of different things that were distracting him, and he was not being able to get this consistency. But for the quality player that he is, he this is where he needs to be, and he deserves to be.
Beautiful from Djokovic. So, and I love how careful he was. Like, we know the mentally, emotionally, off the court stuff Kyrgios was going through. Putting it pretty politely there. But I love the respect that Djokovic shows to all of his opponents, and especially Nick Kyrgios. And that was the cherry on top for me of Novak saying, I'm glad that he's here as a tennis fan, because we've all wanted this as tennis fans. And it's just cool to hear, one of the greatest players of all time talk about being a tennis fan and looking at tennis the way we look at it, watching from our chairs on the TV. Anyways, Djokovic asked about who is the greatest server of all time. Take a listen.
Opelka and Isner, you probably have to, and Karlovic.
Yeah, you got to put those guys first.
The guys that serve from
the fifth floor.
A fifth floor, and it's very difficult to return their serves just because, of course they have amazing technique, but the height helps a lot. I think I always thought Kyrgios has, for someone that is not super tall, has one of the best serves, definitely one of the best, most fluid motions and very effective first and second serve. So obviously in today's game, if you have a strong and effective and precise serve, and if you're able to move well to back it up, it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent service games.
So right there, I think of Rafa when he says that. If you're able to move well and back it up, you got a strong, well-placed first serve. Think of Roger Federer. But I think of Nadal because Nadal is so much known for first serve translates into first forehand. First serve enables Rafa to use his excellent footwork to back it up and get in the spot to hit a forehand where he's either going to win right there. He's the king of first strike tennis. That really is what dictates who wins and loses in our sport nowadays. And maybe that's why Rafa is the greatest of all time with 22 majors right now. Djokovic trying to pull up to 21 and be one away from that. They went on to ask Novak, who's the best forehand? Who's the best backhand? They wanted whoever this journalist was, whoever asking the questions was, they want to know of all time. But Djokovic doesn't know this right now. And I think we're going to play this clip even though it's not related to Kyrgios anymore or the final. But it does bring up a guy that Djokovic had a hard time with here, a harder time than anyone else. And a guy that we're really big on here at Coffee Break Tennis. Take a listen to this. He mentions this guy twice.
If you want me to go through every shot?
Every shot, please, Novak.
Well, forehand, have to put Federer and Nadal there. Different forehands, but of course, huge weapons in their games. Backhands, Murray. I don't want to put myself in any of that, but
so gracious.
Then and Sinner also. Return. I would have to put Murray again, and Sinner, very good return.
Sinner. So not only is it me, but Novak Djokovic thinks Jannik Sinner is pretty damn good too. He agrees with me on that. All right, moving on from that. But the main point there is first person he thinks of for best server in the world. And again, at that point, he thought it was only players currently playing, not historically. After that, he said, let's put Agassi in there for backhand and for return, and Pete Sampras in there for serve and definitely for second serve. He said that. But players right now, best serve, Kyrgios. Other than those big, tall guys who don't move well enough to win majors, Kyrgios does. That's a big difference here. Moving on from there, Djokovic was asked about his first final against a legend. Of course, that was Roger Federer, 2007 U.S. Open. And how that compares to Nick Kyrgios doing the same thing now, his first major final against a legend, bigger legend than Roger was in 2007, Novak Djokovic, 20 majors.
Nick playing his first final. Can you recall back when you played Roger
You
in the US
recall.
Open final, your first Grand Slam final? He was one of the all-time greats. Now Nick's in that position playing you.
Quite a long time ago. I can't really recall exactly the sensations I had, but of course I was overexcited, and I didn't really feel too much pressure, to win a match, because for me it was already a huge achievement reaching the finals, and of course most of the pressure was on Roger to win because he was expected to win, he was a favorite to win. So I understand that situation might be quite similar, even though Nick is not as young as I was at 2007, and so I think that helps him because he's more mature mentally, has more years in his legs on the court and more matches and big matches. Actually, he's a big match player. If you see his career, the best tennis he's played is always against the top guys. So it's why we all respect him, because we know what he can come up with, and it's going to be an interesting match.
It is going to be an interesting match indeed. And, when I hear that, I think of Juan Martín del Potro, another big match player who came up with wins, think including Djokovic. That Olympic, where was that? I think that was in Brazil that year, the Olympics 2016. And Djokovic cried when he lost because he kind of felt like this might be my last chance to win one of these gold medals for singles. And then he lost again to Zverev just recently in 2020. Or not 2020, I guess it was last year. It should have been 2020 Olympics, but they postponed it because of COVID. Anyways, yeah, that was kind of the beginning of when Djokovic, it kind of took a lot of out of him going to Japan, and then he ends up losing the U.S. Open final to Medvedev. Some people blame it on that a little bit. But yeah, Kyrgios, a big-time, big match player. Another reason why, for me, it's kind of hard to predict who's going to win this thing, because it's kind of like we get a vibe like Juan Martín del Potro, who, you think of the times when he was in a big moment, he tends to come up and win it. And more recently, Indian Wells against Federer, what was that, like 2019? That Dominic Thiem match, down 2-0 at the U.S. Open, big match player again. Of course, 2009 U.S. Open final, going into that Olympics match that Federer did end up winning against Del Potro, but Del Potro made it the longest three-setter in history, that Wimbledon grass court Olympics. It was at Wimbledon, but they changed all the signage and made it look like, I guess this was this 2000? I want to say 2008, but it wasn't. No, it was 2012. Yeah, 2008 was in China. 2012 London Olympics. Juan Martín del Potro didn't win that one, but again, a big match, and he really brought it. Kyrgios is the same kind of guy. Let's take a listen to Nick. Nick, did you ever think that you would be here in the finals of Wimbledon?
To be brutally honest with you, obviously when I was #1 junior in the world and I was playing here as a junior, I think I can't give enough credit to juniors, what it did for my confidence. Being around the Grand Slams at that young age, being around some of the top players, the facility, I don't think I would have had the breakthrough in the men's so quickly. But I never thought that I'd be playing. I saw some of the professionals walking around when I'd be a junior here, and I never thought that I'd be playing for the actual men's title. I feel like it's the pinnacle of tennis. Once you are able to raise a Grand Slam trophy, that's like, kind of what else is there to achieve. So I never thought I'd be here, and I'm just super proud, and I'm just ready to go. I'm going to give it my all, and we'll see what happens.
Great answer there from Nick. And I thought it was interesting that he also talked, I didn't put that clip in here today, but he also talked about how winning the doubles at the Australian Open kind of got him used to the rhythm of play a match, rest day, play a match. And he said one thing he realized was it's a really long time. Winning a major is 2 whole weeks. It is a really long time to go through that rhythm, and you can't really go out and enjoy the city you're in and, hit the pub and all that, because you got to stay focused and not have as much fun, which sounds kind of obvious to us. But to Nick, it took a while to learn all of that. Anyways, I was kind of smiling while I was listening to that because I was reading about the next clip already, which is pretty funny because that was a great answer from Nick. Nick gives a terrible answer on this next one. Also, I was noticing he does this technique where he grabs his nose and the index finger goes super fast, scratching the nose really fast. Kind of like reminds me of Mr. Go. It's kind of like a cat scratch technique there. Anyways.
You posted a photo of yourself as a kid with a
Take a look
tennis
at the
racket the other day. I just wondered, what was that kid like? Was he as competitive as you are now? Can you tell us a little bit about what you were like as a kid?
First, he said he was very hungry because he was kind of a chubby kid. But anyway, this is the more interesting part for me. This answer from Nick, he thinks that he's an inspiration to children who are exactly like he is as an adult, which, spoiler alert, I don't think there's many children who are living a life very similar to Nick Kyrgios as an adult. But take a listen for yourself.
Like, I'm not really I don't think I'm supposed to be like someone like me who, I look at that photo and, I grew up in Canberra. The courts I trained on were horrible. And now I'm in the chance to play Wimbledon final. I think it's honestly an inspiration for any sort of kid who's kind of been outcasted or just been surrounded by negative headlines or negative just clouds or...
It's like he caught himself. That's enough for clips for today. He caught himself there. He's like, look, mate, I shouldn't even be here in Wimbledon final. I'm from Canberra, and I played on, the worst grass courts, in the world in Canberra. And, people like me shouldn't even be here in Wimbledon final. And, I just feel like I'm such an inspiration for little kids who are, going through, bad headlines and, really negative press coverage of, what they do on the playground or, and then he catches himself, I was like, wait, little kids, they don't have headlines or press coverage. They're just like chilling on the playground. They don't have. He's like, or like really like negative headlines or like negative clouds or whatever, like dark clouds, like raining on them, like raining on the parades and whatnot. You know, hilarious. Anyways, I got a Fox.au Australian Fox article. There was an article in the Telegraph. I actually got it in my email inbox, but of course I gotta like give them money or something to even be able to look at it. Luckily for us, Fox Australia found this article and printed a little bit in their article of what it said, but this was the headline from the UK Telegraph. UK Telegraph carried a story on Thursday labeling Kyrgios' progression to the final. Quote, this was the headline. I got it in my email inbox this morning. Wimbledon's worst nightmare. And it is, and they're saying Djokovic too. They're saying a final with Djokovic and Kyrgios is a nightmare for the fans at Wimbledon. Here's some quotes from it. If Wimbledon were to select the first player in the open era to receive a walkover into the final, you doubt Kyrgios would be the uppermost in their mind, wrote this guy, Oliver Brown. It's not Olivier, I think it's Oliver. For here is a man, he says, Oliver Brown, who weaved mayhem all through the fortnight, gratuitously abusing line judges with no power to defend themselves. I always got to put that in there. While delivering a display of such supreme malevolence against Stefanos Tsitsipas that the Greek branded him a bully with evil inside. Hey, don't forget about all the bullying and evil that Tsitsipas brought to that match too. Truly, he makes John McEnroe look like a King's College choir master. The very thought of Nick Kyrgios accepting the Golden Challenge Cup from the Duchess of Cambridge is enough to make denizens of the members' balcony gag on the strawberries. Kyrgios was made aware of the article by a reporter during his press conference, but he's had enough experience dealing with negative press not to let it ruffle his feathers. I didn't read it, bro. Look, I totally didn't even see it. Look, like, it's hard. It's something I have to deal with, that the world we live in, you know, I guess. I'm like in a Wimbledon final, and I know deep down everything I've been through and everything I've worked for. So like, I'm just going to enjoy the ride. If that's what they want to write, that's what they want to write. I can control what I do. I just going out there, enjoy the moment. And since I was born, the voice is going all over. I don't even know what voice I'm doing now. Since I was born, only 8 people have won this title. 8 people. So I'm just going to give it my best shot. That's cool. Didn't know Kyrgios had said that. Kyrgios has won both of his previous matches against the Serbian star, both straight sets victories on the hard course in 2017. And John McEnroe said the matches were absolutely relevant. Kyrgios knows he's got the game to bother Djokovic. He just has it. Absolutely, from Johnny Mac. I mean, you could say they're 5 years ago. You could say that 2017 wasn't the best year for Novak Djokovic for his game personally, for him. But it's a hard court. Even in 2017, Djokovic should have felt like, you know, he's playing all right on a hard court. He should have a chance against Kyrgios. And I think they're relevant. Just like John McEnroe said, this is a really hard match to pick. Anyways, let's get into some Bierhall Samstag comments. Moving on to Djokovic in 5. Am I really going to end the show saying Djokovic wins in 5? It's really hard to predict. And a big part of that is because of Nick Kyrgios. And I can't wait to see the Duchess of Cambridge or whoever the hell is going to give Nick Kyrgios a trophy. Can't wait to see all of this. Very excited about what the Telegraph is so afraid of. Anyways, Willie Dubb says, Rafa impression, 9 out of 10. Well, thank you very much. Novak impression, 2 out of 10. Oh, I was bad at Novak. You know, I was doing, it's funny. It's like Nick Kyrgios has this friend who's a comedian in Australia. He does a really good Rafa. He does a really good Novak too. And he does like a funny video of Djokovic being like put in a police car. It's Djokovic's face over some Australian guy being put in a police car by Australian police. And when I hear that, I can kind of figure out how to do the Djokovic voice. Because he's like, get your hands off of me, officer. I am Novak Djokovic. So like you can kind of get into the voice doing that. But after that, I'm not very good at it without that. I can kind of do it when I say those lines from his funny little video he made. It's on his Instagram. Find Elliot Loney. He's got his Djokovic impressions on there. But he always does the I got to give so much credit to Elliot Loney. He's so good. He always does like the upright posture for Djokovic, and he always does like, hello, I'm Novak Djokovic. Because Djokovic used to do that, kind of randomly laugh. I don't know, it was kind of uncomfortable. Djokovic, like Kira said, you know, he wants to be liked, he wants to be fun, and sometimes he'd start laughing randomly. So very good perception there. Anyways, he said, I sound like Yuri from Stranger Things. I don't know about that. I can't remember which guy is Yuri. The funny thing is Yuri is played by an actor who is Serbian. So in a way, he's saying that my impression is pretty good. Moving on. Leo DeWeeb. Even if Djokovic loses, I'd say the final of Kyrgios Norrie will surely be more interesting than the Nadal Casper Ruud final. Yeah. Just seeing Kyrgios in a final of a major is more interesting than Casper Ruud, for sure. MB. While I agree Federer and Djokovic are kings of grass, where is the Sampras love for the third king of grass? 7 Wimbledons and 7 finals, and I would take him over prime peak Federer Djokovic on 90s grass with his serve and grass game any day. Yeah, that's a fair point. I should give some credit to Pete Sampras. It's easy to forget some of the legends from before because the big three have been so big. So let's give some credit there. Lisa Waxler says, I think he was selfish to back out when he did. He screwed Fritz. I mean, he beat Fritz, then he backed out. It probably makes the loss more painful for Fritz. That's true. But, yeah, we talked about that earlier. I disagree with this whole thing. I think Rafa thought he had a chance to get back into this. You know, you can think, like, if I can just survive this match, one good sleep, as Roger famously said, you know, I've got 2 good sleeps. He won the match that day. He's going to sleep that night. The next day is the rest day. He's going to sleep that night. I got 2 good sleeps. See how the body feels after that. That's what Roger said last year at Wimbledon. Bose, Scam Norrie. There's a lot of comments on Scam Norrie. The reason why I say Scam Norrie is because this is a guy who scammed an entire country, England, Great Britain, scammed an entire country into thinking that he had a chance to win Wimbledon. It's a scam. He can't win. Harold Lund. Kyrgios will definitely benefit from getting the walkover. Now he gets time to prepare for the final. Maybe I shouldn't drink all of this. Now, Kyrgios gets time to prepare for the final both physically and mentally. He's lost tight matches before to Federer, for instance, but I don't think he's going to crack under the pressure. This is the chance of his life, and he can embrace the underdog role facing a guy he has a perfect score against. He's going to get inside Novak's head, and I think he just might win. I mean, I think he's got a shot, man. I think he's got a real shot. I think this is going to be a freaking crazy match. I'm regretting that I have some tennis lessons scheduled in the early morning, starting like an hour before the match and then going into like, 'cause I'm going to miss like the first hour of the match. I'm kind of regretting that. Hoping for rain. It might rain tomorrow morning. A tour de force says, I absolutely hate when players decide to play on injured through matches, end up winning it, and then just retire. It feels so wrong on their opponent and also not great that a player gets a bye straight into the final. I mean, you're right. It's not ideal. On the player side, though, it's also not ideal that they go into the final not having played a game in 4 or 5 days compared to your opponent. Yeah, so personally, I'd much rather play a game and be sharp than have the extra rest. I kind of agree here because you got to think Kyrgios is going from the rhythm of match, day off, match, day off, match, day off. And now we're going into match, day off, day off, day off. 3 days off instead of 1, right? Because you got your day off. Then you get the day where you would have played a semifinal. That's another day off. And then you get your day off after the semifinal. You've had 3 days off in a row of no matches. And Kyrgios talked about it in his presser saying, yeah, it could throw me off the rhythm, but you know, I was feeling a little sore, so this would be nice to get the body fresh. We'll see how it plays out. The progressive Michigander says, I don't think this helps or hurts Kyrgios. I think he would have won a not particularly physical match and got some confidence, so Kyrgios loses a little tiny bit of confidence and gains some extra rest. Pretty fair assessment there from the progressive Michigander. He has more. He includes, it's quite an indictment of Fritz that he couldn't beat Nadal with his serve as impaired as it was. I think Fritz should have won if he just served as he normally does. By the way, I will say that I don't like the way Nadal talked about whether he could win 2 matches with his serve as it was. To me, the decision to play shouldn't be about whether you think you can win. It should be about whether you were in too much pain to play at all or whether you playing worse would worsen the injury. But part of that may be the language barrier. It is not the language barrier. Rafa's very good at English now. He's a master of it. He spent so much time dealing with media all his life. He started off doing this when he was like 16 years old. Having to talk to press, when he's 16 because he started winning stuff at that young of age. Or 17 at least. Won the French Open by 18. Definitely comfortable by then. And he's gotten pretty good at English. But anyways, this whole thing right here, this second paragraph, I don't like saying he couldn't win 2 matches with the serve. The decision shouldn't be whether or not you can win. It should be about whether you're in too much pain. Well, the problem with that is he was in too much pain, and he was wondering if he could win through the pain despite the pain. That's what a real competitor Rafa is. That's what, that's part of why he's the greatest. That's what separates these guys from these other guys. I mean, they're so committed to winning these tournaments. It's amazing. It's amazing. Mr. Chili Willy, who has a baby. Look at the picture. I even put it on I printed it. There is no greater joy than having a baby, I would imagine. Wish I had one. Anyways, Mr. Chili Willy, nice baby. Congrats to you, sir. Where is Mr. Goat? Uh-oh. Maybe tomorrow Mr. Goat will be here. Do you think Roger can come back and be competitive again? Yes. I think so. He doesn't have to play many tournaments. He knows what it takes, and he's so ridiculously talented that I believe he can still do some damage. He's going to be back at Wimbledon next year. He's going to have a chance to win. He's going to know. We're going to know. It's not a great chance, but he will have a chance to win, and I think I have a chance to finish this. All right, next comment. Holy shnikes! George Washington. I can't believe that we're graced by a comment from the first president of das États-Unis. That's French and German. George Washington. Western media are blowing things out of proportion. Djokovic and Nadal Wimbledon final would be the greatest GOAT match of all time. I mean, it kind of would have. Reality. Nadal won French Open, as he does each year. Nadal wins the Australian Open due to Novak's deportation from Australia. Fair. On the charges of he might become an icon of free choice, not because he wasn't vaccinated. Google it. There were 2 Novak trials. True as well. That was the main argument of the Australian government, is that Djokovic was going to create anti-vax sentiment and it was going to spread like wildfire. Reality number 2, Nadal didn't win a match. You know, this guy made a good point here, but he's about to make a real dumb one pretty soon. This guy, who the hell am I talking about? This is George Washington, das États-Unis, first president. Nadal didn't win a match against Djokovic on grass since 2008. Nadal didn't win a set, not a match, a set against Djokovic on hard court since 2013. Nadal has a negative head-to-head against Djokovic by 1. Outside of clay, hard courts, and grass, Djokovic head-to-head is 50-9. Djokovic's head-to-head with Nadal. Again, Djokovic 50 wins, 9 wins for Nadal. Let me repeat that one more time. Outside of clay, Djokovic and Nadal's head-to-head is 50-9. Djokovic would eat Nadal alive if they would have played the Wimbledon final. I just say go back to 2018. It was so close. We really wanted it. Anyways, Guru Cray, are you drunk with your 50-9 Novak versus Nadal head-to-head? Moontes Sunny says, they say they met 59 times. How can it be 50 wins to 9 losses, to 9 wins? Moontes Sunny also said Novak has 30 wins and Rafa 29. Yes. If you take out the clay, it's 30-9, not 50-9. It's bad math. Maybe George Washington, he's been dead so long that, like, he can't do the math now. I get it. Like, it's okay. It's cool. George Washington comes back. Poor guy, he can't do math. It's been a long time. It's been like 200 years. They met 59 times. Nadal has 20 victories on clay. Do your math. Outside of clay, Djokovic leads the head-to-head 50-9. Maybe they're drunk too. It's all right, George Washington. We all love Bierhall Freitag und Samstag. Okwi Ugumwezi says, you all predicted that Rafa going to beat Djokovic at Wimbledon. Now he can't even manage the competition to reach that stage. Meanwhile, the next gen is not weak. They're up against the best gen in history. More proof that I'm a good guy here, and I'll read comments that I normally wouldn't have on Bierhall Samstag, because I predicted that Rafa was going to beat Djokovic here. I think, like they were saying, Patrick McEnroe, this super slow grass, I think it kind of helped Rafa. Rafa had a better chance because Novak hitting good spots with his serve wouldn't hurt Rafa as much as it would in previous years where the grass is just tougher to return off of. Plus, in the final, it basically turns into clay. You know, the grass is all gone. You see all that dirt at the baseline. Anyways, I do like this. To say one thing, this is what I used to say before this now when they say, oh, it's a weak era. Federer's beating a weak era. The next gen is not weak. They're just up against the best gen in history. I think there's a lot of truth to that statement. The guys that Federer was whooping up on, they were up against one of the best in history, and now these guys are up against 3 of the best in history. Throw in Andy Murray there to cause some upsets too. You know, he did beat Zverev not that long ago. Nemanja Peric says, I really enjoy your podcast. Great to listen to as a tennis. Greetings from Europe. Europa in German, and Europe in France. Mark J, hit the music. We're out of here. Mark, why are you calling him Scam Nori? I already explained that. Andre Serrano, Scam Nori. Clarity with KG. What is this dislike so many have for Novak and favoritism towards Federer and Nadal? Novak has tremendous integrity, strength, compassion. He's a warrior. Nole is the GOAT. Eat 'em all! All right, we're getting out of here. I mean, he might be the GOAT, and he's going to need to beat Nick Kyrgios tomorrow. Novak is going to have to. All right, do comment below. Did you enjoy Bierhall Samstag? Did we get too out of control here? Did you enjoy hearing all the comments? Anyway, I am curious to see. I want to see all the predictions. If someone is right about tomorrow, if you can predict how many sets and who is the winner, we'll definitely showcase you in the next show. I'm going to try really hard to make that next show tomorrow because I have a very busy week. I'm running tennis camps all of next week, so it's going to be hard to work on a show after tomorrow anyways. And I'm going to get a late start, of course, teaching in the morning, in the early hours in the morning. But we're going to try our best to have a show tomorrow, so do comment below your prediction for the final. I'm going to stick, I guess, Djokovic wins in 5, but I'm really unsure of that one because we have the most unsure guy in Nick Kyrgios in the history of our sport. I mean, has anyone ever been able to predict anything this guy is going to do? We'll find out tomorrow. See ya!